San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How you doing? How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for 2 hours tonight, as we are every Sunday night here with Wrestling Observer Live. I got Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, on the line. We're also going to be joined, hopefully, by Sean Waltman, who's actually at a party at Anna Nicole Smith's house as we speak, and he's trying to get away for a couple minutes to talk to us. And also Larry Matysik, former booker and television announcer in St. Louis, the glory days of St. Louis wrestling, so we can talk a little bit about his thoughts when he watches his 5 minutes or so of Raw. Brian, when I was talking to him earlier today, I figured the viewing pattern out, because he says, he tunes it in at the very beginning of the show, then usually tunes it out right away because it's a 20-minute interview, comes back at the top of the hour, usually watches that, usually starts hating it about 15 minutes after, tunes it out, and then comes back for the overrun.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, too.
Yeah, every week. So anyway, we can talk about that. A lot of news. Before we get to the news, I want to mention two new stations that are picking the show up, WAAK in Charlotte, and also KOLM AM, 1520 AM in Rochester, Minnesota, thanks to General Manager John Russell for picking up the Sports Byline Network. So, and say hi to everybody in Charlotte and Rochester, Minnesota. Also, sad news to, it was a really sad weekend for professional wrestling. Between the death last night of Tim Mr. Wrestling Wooden, who was a big star in the 70s, a heck of a great wrestler. Not the most charismatic guy, but superstar in Georgia in the early 70s, Florida, Carolinas, wrestled in Texas as well, Japan. Pretty much a big star most of the places he went, and great technical wrestler, great college wrestler as well. George Two-Ton Harris, who was a manager and a wrestler in the 60s and 70s, a lot in the Carolinas as well as Florida. Jeff Peterson, who was only 21 years old, passed away of cancer, we'd met him once at an all-pro wrestling show when he was only 17 years old, and he was good, and that is a really sad story. I don't know, did you ever see Jeff Peterson wrestle, Brian?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, and let's see, the other biggest news of the weekend is yesterday in Yokohama, Japan, Jushin Liger, on his birthday, had a shoot match with Minoru Suzuki, and he got squashed.
A minute 49?
Something like that.
Now there's your happy birthday presents you get for not training.
Hey, I can't blame him. Minoru Suzuki's probably had 40, 50 matches, trained for it for 10 years, 12 years. Jushin Liger hasn't done any competitive sports since he was a high school wrestler. New Japan is out of their minds.
Yeah.
That's all we got to say. Anyway, sometimes when we talk about WWE, and believe me, sometimes they make some big mistakes. Man, New Japan has killed its promotion just as much. Anyway, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to start taking your phone calls as well. You can join us at 1-800-878-PLAY. That's 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time and 10 to midnight Eastern Time here with Wrestling Observer Live every Sunday night. Brian, I was watching the Pride show after we got home from last week's show, and what is your prediction for Antonio Nogueira against Fedor?
Nogueira.
You think so?
Yeah.
That Fedor looked pretty devastating to me.
He did, but he did not look as scary as Bob Sapp did that one night, and Nogueira beat him.
Yeah, but
I've been very bad at predictions lately, so maybe I shouldn't be even doing this, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's a real interesting fight. I mean, it's not a box office fight, and, except for the super hardcore fans, no one's going to care, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be Nogueira's toughest test since he's been in Pride.
Even tougher than Bob Sapp?
As far as beating him, yeah. Because Bob Sapp, I mean, if you really watch that fight, except for that first powerbomb where Bob Sapp could have killed him, after that, Bob Sapp beat him up and everything, but he was in no danger of actually winning the fight. It was just a question of, when he would gas out, and then when he gassed out, he just got killed. Whereas Fedor's not going to gas out, and Fedor might be able to throw him around, because, I mean, he threw Heath Herring, who's a good wrestler, around. I mean, he just beat him up.
Yeah.
He beat him up a lot worse than Nogueira did.
But that's also, I mean, you never looked at Fedor before and went, wow, this guy could beat Nogueira.
No,
maybe he had a good night and Heath had a bad night, and that was that.
Maybe.
Anything can happen. That's what I learned after, well, actually, I learned that on every show, but when Don Fry lost, that was one right there.
Yeah, Don Fry. Oh, my God, that arm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And people thought that was fake.
You know what? Have you noticed that no matter what, whenever there's a pro wrestler involved in a Pride show, people cry fake? I mean, like, they cried fake at Fry and Takayama and Fry and Shamrock. And, I mean, those were, like, the two probably least fake matches of the entire year.
Yeah.
I had someone who actually asked me recently if the Shamrock Tito Ortiz match was a work.
Wow.
I mean, and it's like, I mean, please. I don't know. You know, when you're around wrestling so much, and especially in Japan as well, you have to always ask the question.
Well, yeah, but you'd think that at least if it was going to be a work, it would be an exciting, well, maybe not exciting is the best word, but at least not one-sided. You know what I mean? Shamrock went in there and was killed for 3 rounds.
Well, that one obviously was.
Yeah, but what about Takayama and Fry? Fry killed him for whatever, destroyed him.
Yeah, but it was so unbelievably good.
Yeah, but it was still one-sided.
And there was the problem of it being a work when you looked at Takayama's face when it was over.
Yes.
Yeah, so, the whole...
With pro wrestling nowadays, I mean, it's like guys kick each other in the face really hard, and I was just watching a Ring of Honor match with a low-key match, and him and AJ Styles were kicking each other in the face, and, AJ's busted open, his nose is all bleeding, and I thought, wow, it's fake, you guys. I don't know.
Well... The new, when they're wrestling 200 nights a year, they'll realize that you can't be doing that all the time.
Yeah.
But let's start heading to some phone calls. We're going to start with Springfield, Illinois, with John. John, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
First of all, I hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to you guys too.
Oh, we did. Except for the wrestling aspect of it, really was terrible this weekend. But
I was going to say, actually, I did catch SmackDown and it was really bad.
That's something else.
And
that was like thunder.
But
it wasn't okay. They still had the Angle match. I mean,
right.
They still had Angle and Benoit against the Guerrero, so it wasn't. I can't call it terrible.
Right.
But it was the weakest SmackDown in a while, no doubt.
Well, yeah, they took it off for the holiday. But the thing that really surprised me was, I don't know, did you guys catch Tough Enough?
Yes, I did.
I thought it was the best episode I've ever seen from Tough Enough.
Tremendous. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say the best I've ever seen, but it was the best of this season.
Because, first of all, you know how we always complain. I mean, granted, this is not going to be inside, like we're going to Les Thatcher's, wrestling school. But at least this episode, everything revolved around the ring. It revolved, okay, Jonah got hurt because, he was trying to tough it out,
Sign that man up. That guy does a better promo than anyone in WWE.
Exactly.
And a better actor.
Hilarious.
Better actor, anyway, yeah.
And they cut Scott, but Scott looked good,
not in the ring.
Not in the ring. Yeah, he didn't have...
He did appear to have grown up a lot in the last week. Because the week before, he was a complete idiot.
The best thing about it was you didn't need to have the unnecessary drama of a food hot tub or a dating.
Hey, that was good for ratings. That was good for ratings, though.
And it was good for
as far as the episode. If I said, okay, what's the best episode that to me emphasizes Tough Enough, I would put that tape in.
Yeah.
Because it was really, and like you said, Jonah. that was probably one of the best riffs I've ever seen. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, with the WWE going into this last month of the year, with the holidays coming up, we know that the ratings are going to go into the 2.0 range there.
They're not going to go into the 2.0, but...
You sure? Because it's like...
No. I mean, Thanksgiving number, when it ever comes out, that won't be a good number. But the rest of the numbers, they'll be all right. I mean, I don't want to say they'll be all right, because Raw numbers are going to stink, but...
A 2 is real low. I mean, that's...
Yeah,
I'm not saying 2, but under 3. I mean, I was...
Raw, if Raw continues to stink, I could see it falling under 3, yes.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering now...
I know, when did they get rid of Brian Gewirtz? I know. I wonder the same... I've been wondering the same thing for a long time. I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Because
even just, maybe not even just get rid of him, but demote him.
Right.
So look, you're in charge of promos now on both shows. But
yeah, but he's doing a lot of the promos on both shows. That's why the SmackDown promos are starting to get like corny again.
Yeah. Well, that's. I just and I'm worried about that myself because it seems like SmackDown is becoming more and more Raw-like. So.
I know. Can you believe?
Well, maybe that was just this week.
No. Yeah, but there were decisions that did not have to do with tanking the show for Thanksgiving, which is like more Stephanie, the PMS stuff. And
the promo.
And that's the stuff. That's that Raw stuff sneaking over. That's not we're tanking this week, and that's the mindset of the guy running the company, and he's just not with it. When we've been saying it for a year and a half.
I'm just wondering, when is Viacom going to get in?
They don't know what's going on. They just think that
Well, I mean, they're looking at the ratings and they're saying we paid for at least a 5.0. And here we're tanking. I mean, granted, SmackDown has had negligible.
It's still the top-rated show on UPN.
Raw, I mean, it's like Raw is not. I mean, it's barely making the top 10 as far as basic.
Yeah, I know they did not buy to be like number 11 and 13 in cable. I know that. That's true.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dave, for taking my call.
Okay, very welcome. We're going to go to San Antonio and Ed, who's at the show in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on?
Hey guys, I just got back from the house show. It was a pretty decent show. The crowd wasn't that great, but it was better than the last time they were here. The first match was Funaki against Albert. Funaki got the upset win since it's his hometown. Funny thing is,
does anyone know that? I mean, you're right. It is his hometown.
No one really knew, but he did get a pop. But what was funny is, since Albert did the job, not only did he have to get his heat back, he had to get it back 3 times after the match.
Oh God.
And then
was it his hometown too?
And then Doug Basham, Red Dog, and B-Square beat Hugh Morris, Sheldon Benjamin, and Haas, or I'm sorry, I forgot his last name.
Charlie Haas.
Yeah, Charlie Haas. That was a decent match. They were working like a lot of old school psychology, trying to get the fans into it. It was pretty decent.
Ohio Valley.
Yep.
Nydia beat Dawn Marie in a bra and panties match.
Nydia won.
Yeah, she won.
Wow.
And she stripped after, of course.
Oh, isn't like it's sort of Nydia's hometown? Well, she's from Houston, so it's close enough.
And then Billy Kidman beat Novo in a pretty good match. Kidman looked really good. Spanky and Shannon Moore beat Guido in Crash. There wasn't a lot of heat. I felt kind of bad for the guys, but it was an okay match. Brock and the Big Show with a DQ because everybody, all the heels ran, jumped on Brock. Then all the faces came out, clean house. And then Ray hit the 6-man on Big Show. And then Brock picked them up for the F5, which was pretty awesome. The best match was the 3-way, of course. Not only were they working their butts off, but there was a lot of comedy in the match, which I was surprised. And it was a really good match and stuff. And it was a good show overall. Kind of glad I went.
Those Guerreros over Edge and Ray and Angle and Benoit.
Yeah, they won, and then Edge and Ray went out first, to my surprise. And then after the Guerreros won, Angle and Benoit, they did their little arguing thing, and then Eddie came back out, and they both beat up Eddie.
So what was the crowd?
The crowd was into it somewhat. It was a new building, so it was about maybe half the building full. It would have been a near sellout at the Freeman, but the new building's a lot bigger, so they really should have had a TV for the first event at the building.
What did they say about Brock as far as the suspension, or was it just forgotten about?
Oh, that he has to fill his obligations, his booked obligations.
Oh, that's a good one.
I mean, nothing too original there.
But his obligation like a 4-year deal or something.
His booked obligations that don't include SmackDown and pay-per-views.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm actually at work, so I need to go. So.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Next week.
Okay. Thanks very much for calling. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you do not subscribe to either of the publications, there's information. All you got to do is go to WrestlingObserver.com, and there's always the latest news updates, as well as TV reports and information on how to subscribe to both the Wrestling Observer newsletter and Figure 4 Weekly. And I highly recommend you subscribe to both because you'll get a tremendous amount of fun reading every Saturday. I know I just love to read Figure 4. Everyone knows that. Every Saturday, and it came Saturday, so my weekend was made, I guess. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I had a great weekend, except for, God, coming home last night and hearing about Tim Woods. You know, Tim Woods, you know, when I was a kid, I watched him in Florida, and he was a really, you know, he was like one of those guys, he was like a really good wrestler. He used to do, did you ever see the Tim Woods cradle where he would stand on his head?
Mm-mm.
That was it was one of his winning moves. I mean, I think he was more famous like for the sleeper, but he had it, I think they called it a standing cradle, and I'm not sure the term. Maybe someone can call up and let us know what the term was if I'm wrong. But I just remember he would do this, it would be like an Oklahoma side roll type of a move, but he would end up standing on his head and holding the cradle, and they would count to 3. It was the coolest looking move.
Was it kind of like Hombre Sin Nombre in Mexico? You ever seen that one he does?
I haven't seen him do that, no.
I think his is more like a backslide, and then he does a headstand.
Oh, no, I've seen that. No, that's totally different.
Okay.
One of the Japanese women, I think Momoe Nakanishi actually does the move in Japan, over there. But, and I think it's the only other person I've ever seen do it. Supposedly, the story goes that he got this because he was wrestling in a match in college, and it just so happened that he got the guy and ended up standing on his head when he got the pin, and he just used it for the next, 25 years.
Wow.
So, anyway, and he's in Luthez. Luthez picked him for his Hall of Fame, as a matter of fact. One of the best wrestlers. Luthez picked him as one of the best wrestlers of all time. Let's go.
Sad that his legacy is continuing now with Vince Russo.
I have heard those jokes in the last 24 hours, believe me.
Isn't that sad, though?
Yeah, isn't it, though?
Think about it, that you think about fans today, and the first thing they'll think when they hear Mr. Wrestling is Vince Russo.
Not too many.
Well, not fans that have been around.
And not new fans either. Nobody's watching that stuff.
Well, that's true. I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, I watch it every week, and I'm into it, but, we don't get any response to it, and you know that better than anyone.
I guess I do.
Let's go to Chicago and Dan. What's going on, Dan?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Doing fine.
Well, my Thanksgiving started out well in the morning until I saw Triple H on the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade.
Oh, come on. He didn't ruin the parade. He's going to ruin Raw tomorrow night, and probably that he didn't ruin.
He was on twice. Not once, twice. They showed him, once really quick, then they showed Vince, and then they showed Triple H again. Well,
he was the biggest star on the float.
That's just irritating me. And I always was a big Stephanie supporter. I've always liked her. But Thursday ruined it for me. She was on too many damn times.
Way too much. It's not even too much, but it's like they're trying to just get over so strong, her being an authority, and you know what I mean. And just, and the last thing I need is Brock Lesnar being Steve Austin and her being Vince McMahon. You know what I mean?
That's what it looked like. Because Brock leaving and then he came back and it just looked like Austin. You know what I mean? The whole thing, like you said, that's what I thought of too.
Yeah.
So, but I got a question about Chris Jericho. This Thursday, I'm going to go see him over at a place called Truck City. He's going to be performing here in Illinois. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what the review is on the show. On his show, have you heard anything?
I just saw the one concert, and it
was a concert on Raw, and it was not.
That wasn't, all that good, really.
Yeah.
Well, I'm into. Me and my buddy were into, going to see bands and everything, and we like Jericho. We think he's funny, and I was just kind of curious on what.
I haven't heard. I take that back. I got a review of a show he did in L.A. that I heard that people said he was very good at. So.
Actually, you know what? I think they had something on Confidential where they showed some clips from one of his concerts, and it was like 100 million times better than the Raw thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, actually. Do you know, if there's going to be, afterwards, if you're going to be allowed to talk to him, go up to him, do you know if he's approachable, or?
I would think he would be, but I don't really know for sure.
Okay. All right, so I'm looking forward to it. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, call next week and let us know how Jericho was.
All right, I will.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Was Confidential a repeat last night, by the way?
Yes, it was, so you don't have to watch it.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, that saves a half hour. Let's go to Chris in Savannah, Georgia, who was at SmackDown in Columbia, I guess, right?
Absolutely. And let me just tell you, that show was dead as dead could be.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the crowd was so flat. It was a break.
They popped Ramula, though.
Well.
They did. They popped Ramula. I'm watching this, and, I know she's hometown, but she's also 79 years old.
Okay, well, this is the third event in a brand new building, and the crowd was so incredibly sparse. I had never been to a television taping that small in my life for anything. WCW ECW, WWF, otherwise. I mean, not only was the entire upper deck blacked off, but the entire non-hard camera side on the floor was blacked off.
Wow.
Yeah, so half bull would be pushing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that Al Wilson segment.
Oh! Al Wilson. Al Wilson is, Al Wilson has gotten past, there was a point where Al Wilson could be like that thing, it's so bad it's funny, it's long past that.
Oh, God.
They need to, whatever brilliant idea they've got for that wedding, they need to do it this week and get this thing over with.
I think that when they actually do it, it won't be that brilliant.
I
mean, if Al Wilson's involved, how good can it be?
Yeah.
I think the crowd was more livelier at a match in Budokan than they were for Al Wilson's promo.
Yeah.
I mean, you could hear a pin drop.
And Michael Cole screaming.
Yeah.
Well,
and how about that announcing on Thursday night?
Oh, God.
Well, the kicker was Michael Cole said, if you're watching this at home, I feel sorry for you. And I thought that was just a line of the night right there.
God, it's not. Oh, I hate when they do that, though, because you're treading in when you're telling people that your product stinks, and they start thinking this product stinks. It's like they've done that before. Like, every character where the gimmick was that they have no charisma, they've never gotten over based on that gimmick.
Yep.
I just don't understand how this translates into dollar signs. I have been contemplating it extremely hard, and I've yet to come to a conclusion of how this translates into money. I'm all in favor for something goofy and stupid and borderline mind-numbing if it's going to draw money, but
I'm in favor if it's entertaining. I don't care. It doesn't got to be wrestling, but it's got to it's got to be entertaining. And the Al Wilson stuff is so bad.
I really felt ripped off for my $46. I mean,
no main event.
They kind of killed that market right there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was.
But they don't understand that.
There were so few people to begin with in a brand new building that they haven't had a television taping in probably 10 years.
Mm.
And I don't know. That's just my opinion. My opinion on that. And none of the matches were really good. So many people mailed it in.
I thought the Benoit match was good.
Well, yeah, the Benoit match was good, but it wasn't.
And you know what else? I thought the Mysterio match was good. I thought that was a good match. I mean, Cena wasn't up to the snuff of the other three, but Matt Hardy was real good.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, Tajiri and Chuck Palumbo was pretty bad.
Well, I can understand how you say that because I've been at shows where the crowd is so not into it. And the show is so bad at the end with no main event that you go home thinking that this thing just sucked.
Yeah.
I just felt like I had genuinely wasted money on a wrestling event. I've never felt that way in my life about wrestling at any point, no matter how bad it was.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, I wish I could say that, they're going to get your message and turn it around, but they're not.
They will in about 6 years.
They will in 6 years. You're right. Yeah, but you know how much damage is going to be done?
It's like that thing you wrote in the Observer this week where Vince stood up and said Crash TV was dead. It's like, okay, that was 4 years ago, you idiot.
Somebody, I was on a radio show this morning, and somebody just goes, does Vince ever call you? And I hadn't thought about this, and he hasn't in about 18 months. But and I was thinking, he used to call me all the time, and and then I started thinking, the last time he called me was, Dave, what do you think we should do for the invasion? And I said, well, first, because he was telling me, because we're going to give WCW Raw. How do we get to it? And I go, well, obviously, the number one thing you got to do is have a hell of an angle to build to this match with WCW against WWF with Raw at stake, and WCW wins. And I haven't talked to him since. Wow. And you know what happened after that?
Yep.
The last time you talked to him was the last time it was good.
I was still excited at that point because it was just starting. I thought this angle that's going to give it 2 good years before the thing falls apart, which I did expect to happen. But after the 2 good years, and
they did the 2 good years in one night. Remember that?
Yeah, and in one night in Atlanta, and they got one great pay-per-view out of it, and buy rate, and then it was over.
Dead.
All right, we're gonna.
All right, guys, thanks.
Okay, Chris.
What's the record for Thunder, by the way, of a TV taping? Isn't it 870 or something? Is the lowest they ever got?
What do you mean?
It's attendance.
Oh, paid attendance? Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to get that
That's
low.
what we got to shoot for then.
They're not going to get that low for a while. That's, but anyway. We are going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to get back to more phone calls. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We got one line open, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours every Sunday night here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. And again, I want to mention that we are welcoming WAAK in Charlotte. Actually, they joined us last Sunday night for the first time, and tonight, for the first time, KOLM, 1520 AM in Rochester, Minnesota, thanks to John Russell. And we're going to get back to the phone calls. We're going to go to Aaron in Trenton, New Jersey. Aaron, how are you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing real good.
All right, good. Hey, I just had a question. I was wondering about back Edge when he won his first Intercontinental title back in '99 against Double J.
Yes.
What was the story behind that?
Brian, do you remember that? I mean, somebody no-showed, and they just wanted to give people in Toronto something because there was a no-show on the card, and I forget who it was. It was not something that was planned, and it was like a 1 or 2 day thing, right?
Yeah, I think it was like the next day or something he lost it back.
Yeah, it was just something. Somebody, like maybe in Austin, like a big star missed a Toronto show, and they just wanted to make the fans happy, and so they gave their hometown guy a title win for one night type of deal.
Okay, I thought it was weird just because, you don't normally see that, especially in '99 like that.
You don't see it now either. I wish that they would do stuff like that every now and then. Not one-day things, but just,
They need to do it just one time, is change a title on a house show and just
more than one,
like crazy on Raw.
More than one time. They need to do, not just change the title. They just need to shoot angles at house shows. They need to do something at these house shows.
Well, it needs to be something at a house show that they show on Raw so the people know to go.
Right. They show it on Raw, they show it on SmackDown. Exactly. And they make a point. I would have an angle at a house show every week that's shown on TV. Not at every house show, but, out of the 4 house shows, you do one of the 3. There's always an angle. You don't know which one it's going to be. And, it changes the storyline a little bit. Like one of the angles that they were going to shoot on a Thursday, shoot that one. Like take one of the angles off the TV show and shoot it at the house every week.
Yep.
And that way people will think that, it's worth going to house shows again. At least a little more than they do now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like didn't Terry Funk and Lance Storm change the U.S. title a couple times?
I think they did 4 straight. But you see, that's
it was something in California.
No, it was in Texas.
Was it?
Yeah, it was 4 nights in Texas, and they changed
California too.
They changed whatever it was 4 nights. They changed the title every single night, back and forth, and then on TV it was never acknowledged.
Yeah,
and it's like that doesn't serve any purpose. I remember that because the guys that were running WCW are going like, well, the people pop big when they see a title change at house shows, and it's like, yeah, but if it's not acknowledged on TV, they think that they got ripped off. I saw Vern do that stuff all the time. Those fake title things. And, the people would be, they would go home thinking that they'd seen a title change. They'd watch TV. It's never acknowledged. Or it'd be acknowledged, well, you thought you saw the title change, but, it was overruled after you went home.
Yeah.
And it's like people hated that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question about the X Division. Where do you think the future of the X Division's going?
Depends on the future.
What's the future of NWA TNA?
Well, that's true. But Sonny Siaki, you think he's got a chance in Jerry Lynn or what?
Possibly. He's not Jerry Lynn's league, but they may do it just to switch something around and have, Sonny Siaki against AJ Styles or something. Because they've done AJ and Jerry Lynn to death, so they know they got to get some new faces in, and I think maybe Siaki's their choice. Although from a work standpoint, there's so many guys better.
Vince and Ace was like 9 times they'd face each other on like 22 shows. So
yes.
You're looking like once every other show they were wrestling.
And not only that, but it was just a couple of weeks ago where they had their final conflict, and then like 2 weeks later they wrestled again.
Last ever match.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking this last Wednesday. It looked like they were trying to finish it up because that was pretty brutal. They kind of went away from the stuff they were using.
Well, they just figured, I think that those 2 guys just figured, hey, we've given people every kind of match but a brawl, so we just got to do something different. I give them credit. That match on... every match they've had, or almost every match they've had, has been really good. So, that's, but when they did the last ever match, coming back 2 weeks later, I just thought, it's just not, I just didn't like it. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. Keep up the good work.
Okay, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Jonathan in Savannah, Georgia. Jonathan, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I also want to let you know I was at the SmackDown taping with Chris. So.
Oh, and what did you think?
I don't know if I'd rip it as bad as he did, but it was quite subpar as it has been. I don't know if turned me off completely, like he was saying about. I didn't feel too ripped off, but I mean, it wasn't. That Al Wilson thing about, I don't know, that killed what energy the crowd had, if it had any. Didn't have very much to begin with, but
I mean, it's like I understood the idea when it first started, but it's like when, you know, we've seen angles in WWE that have not flopped anywhere close to as bad as this, that get, you know, the rug pulled out from under them. And this one's really been flopping the last few weeks, and they're just, I mean, I know they think they got a really great idea of whatever they're going to do at the wedding, but just, oh God, they got to get to it, and they got to get that man off television.
Yeah, he was just, oh, geez. I mean, it came off like, then I watched it, like, I mean, they're live. It was bad, and then I watched it on Thursday, and it was almost worse than it was being there live, the way it came off on TV. But, what I wanted to tell you is, what they didn't show you on TV, the Raw Retro moment, it was a different Raw Retro moment.
Yeah, didn't they do it was a Brett Screwed Brett thing, right?
Yeah, it was Brett Screwed Brett. They didn't show that one, did they?
Yeah, they didn't. No, they showed they showed Sean Waltman's beating, 1-2-3 Kid beating Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that somebody somewhere, between Tuesday and Thursday just goes, people really get sick of us always ripping on Bret Hart, and maybe.
Well, then I guess it's too late for Stephanie to not say it then.
But I think I think that the whole deal is that Stephanie said it, and doing it twice on the same show was overkill.
Yeah.
Well,
that whole like Raw Retro thing, like, I mean, the people that were watching it, like, I think it went completely over their heads. They had like no idea what was going, like, where it even came from, like.
You know what?
Well, it's a lot of things like that. That was 5 years ago, and even Stephanie's saying it. Everyone's probably sitting there going, what do you mean?
Yeah, but I mean, the Razor Ramon thing, that was 5 years, but I mean, the Razor Ramon thing that's like, 9, 10 years ago?
Yeah. Well, 10 years ago, because it was like the first year.
That's right, first year of Raw, which is 93.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anybody see anything wrong with the Raw Retro being on SmackDown when you're supposed to be having these feuding brands?
I would have about 6 weeks ago, but I've given up.
Well, I've given up too, but I'm just saying it's just another nail. It's just another nail, you know?
But to me, the coffin has long been buried, and there are no more nails to drive into it, so it's like, okay, well, put Jim Ross back there in the middle of SmackDown and air the Raw Retro. Who cares anymore?
Yeah.
It's done.
I had two more things. One a question and then one like a little statement to let you know. Well, after like Triple H ruined my Raw for running in the main event, which I guess I don't know. I knew it was coming, so I guess I can't say that I didn't expect it. But on when they show is, I didn't know, like, I just want to say, like, on the Desire video that they air, guess who the last person is that happens to pop up on that screen?
Is it Triple H?
Yep.
Walking up the ramp with Stephanie and Earl Hebner.
I don't know if it's that one or it's one, like, I don't know. It's that My Sacrifice video or whatever. And
one from San Jose when he was limping.
After I think it might have been that, or it was one of those. It might have been one of those like I Quit matches or something where he had like his blood all over his face. I can't remember which one, but I just wanted to say that. I guess he gets himself in.
All of you who have this idea that something's going to happen and Triple H isn't going to be the focal point unless he gets hurt. He is, it's going to be worse, not better when it comes to him.
Yeah.
Right. And my real question that I want to ask,
a real question, okay.
Well, my real statement, I guess the real thing I want to ask, so wasting you guys' time. Why, to me, watching this is about tough enough, getting for Scott to get cut when Kelly. I mean, I guess we didn't see all the.
We didn't see the train, so we don't know. And Kelly's on thin ice too, so Kelly's probably getting cut next week. So.
Okay.
So, whatever. I mean, I think they gave...
I thought the same thing. I would have cut her, too.
Yeah. I think Scott, they kept Scott about as long as they could, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I just thought with her, I thought in order to be like a wrestler, you need to have somewhat of some endurance. You need to be sort of physical, and like her not being able to.
Oh, I know, carry the bag and everything. Yeah, well, they were doing that to set up her being cut. Is the reason I think.
Yeah, but the thing to me is I think she should have been cut too. But imagine taking all the other women in WWE and having them carry a bag. Imagine putting that bag on Terry.
Stacy Keibler.
In back.
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yeah.
Well, with them, they at least have something going for them other than wrestling talent than Kelly has. I mean, they can.
Well, Kelly looks like Lita, and Lita's in trend. Lita's got a bad neck. I don't know.
Yeah, but she's like a fat, overweight Lita.
Yeah.
From the waist below, I guess. I don't know. But Who do you guys think would win? Like, I'm thinking maybe John.
John and Matt look like the favorites, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think, but I don't know. The way they go, it might end up being...
Or Eric's the
I think Matt already did that article saying he's there. And
well, I think all three of those guys are there at the end, I think.
Probably Jonah.
Jonah will probably be there at the end. He's got some personality and everything, but I don't see him winning because it's been pretty clear that, like, in the ring, I mean, he's trying real hard, but he's not getting it.
Yeah. But you know what I've noticed about the show is they're very careful to make you think certain things to make other things happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, maybe they're saying that right now, so everyone, because, I mean, they did things like everyone expected Scott to be cut the first week. And that was obviously, they did that on purpose to make you think that, and then it turns out he didn't get cut till the fifth week or whatever, so who knows?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no real, like, I mean, I think there's, like, people that should be in the final, but then knowing them, they're going to try to swerve us, and then it'll be like, I don't know, it'll be Justin ends up in the, I mean, the guy, like, the least person you should think should be there.
Okay, Jonathan, we got to get running, okay?
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, Ryan in Winnipeg. Ryan, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Good. I've been watching TNA for the last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on the show? Has it, like, have you liked the last couple of weeks of the show or not, or what?
I can't say. 2 weeks ago, I liked it a lot. Last week's show, I thought was very weird.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I didn't mind it. I was amused by it. But I also thought it was like just a terrible step in the wrong direction. I think that they've just kind of lost their focus.
Well, wait till next week.
I know.
But what was their focus? It seems like they didn't have one at the start.
They didn't have one, but now they're going to try to do this sports entertainment versus wrestling thing that like nobody's going to care about, and it's just.
And how do you do it? You have half the guys being fake matches, supposedly, and half being, well, what do you do?
I know.
What's the difference between a wrestler and a sports entertainer?
I know.
One has a personality and one doesn't. Okay, you're dead right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, with this Raw special thing coming up, do you know if it's going to be 3 hours or 2 hours or? I
would assume 2 hours, but I don't know. I haven't heard.
Have you heard what the number one moment is going to be, or?
I'm sure they haven't even decided themselves.
And is
better probably involve
How much they want Steve Austin back?
Yes, Steve Austin returning on that show, or Bret Hart returning on that show if they can get him.
Is it true that Steve Austin will return Monday night?
I have not heard that. It wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's going to return at any time, but I haven't heard of him returning that soon. No.
But would he still return even if he still hates Eric Bischoff?
That'll have no bearing on this at all.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Okay, you're very welcome. Okay, we're going to go ahead to a breakdown. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. And I don't think we're going to be getting Sean Waltman on the show. Maybe we can get him next week. He told me he was going to an Anna Nicole Smith party, but he was going to try to break away. Second hour, we're going to have Larry Matysik, a longtime television announcer in St. Louis in the 70s and the 80s, as well as booker for Sam Mushnick for a couple of years, and Sam Mushnick's assistant and someone who learned from Sam Mushnick. And even though he's still alive, he, in fact, turns over in his grave regularly as he watches the current wrestling scene. But we'll talk to him about the current scene. And I'll tell you what, if you want to talk to somebody about wrestling in the 70s, I mean, this is a guy who probably knows as much about it as almost anyone, 70s and 80s, and was with Vince McMahon at the start. We can talk about that 84-85 period, which is the subject of a couple of books, the Hulk Hogan book and the Roddy Piper book, both of which I've read in the last couple of weeks. And the Piper book's better than the Hogan book, I'll just say that. Let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Alan, what's going on? Oh, no, it's Jim in Evansville. I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. We'll get to Alan after the hour. Jim, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Just want to ask you, with Mr. Wrestling, he passed away this weekend. Have you guys ever seen a year like this before where just
no
name after big name?
No, there's never been.
Are we at 50 yet?
We're probably closing in on about 35 or 40.
Oh, it's more.
Oh, no, you're right. More than 35 for sure. Yeah. No, as far as a year where, being that I've been writing obits for 20 years on wrestling, no, nothing close to this year. It's, and big names like, Thez and Wahoo and Tim Woods was a big name, and young, and a lot of young guys, it's been a horrible year in that sense.
Yeah,
it's been a horrible year for wrestling all in all,
Yeah.
And when last year ended, I remember thinking, that was a real bad, because WCW and ECW both died, and WWE was having a bad year, and I was going like, Thank God that year is over because, next year is going to be good, but this year really was worse.
It has, though. I mean, I've been a fan. I'm 21. I've been a fan since I was like 6 or 7. And the closest I remember anything like this was the beginning of 1993 with Andre the Giant, Kerry Von Erich, Dino Bravo.
Right. I remember that, too. Yeah, that first couple of months was real bad.
Yeah.
But this was more. This has been a lot worse. Okay, thanks a bunch, Jim. We're going to go ahead to our break right now. We're going to have Larry Matysik up in the second hour. Everyone else, you can stick through. We should have one line open, so you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY, and we'll get to everybody else in the second hour. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on! Get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer here for the second hour here on Wrestling Observer Live, and we got Sean Waltman here. Sean, what's going on? Hey, how are you, Sean?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Not too much. How's the party?
Oh, you knew I was at the party.
Yeah, you told me that's where you told me you were going to be.
Oh, well, it's a hell of a party.
Who's there?
Well, have you ever seen the show?
The Anna Nicole Smith show?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I've watched 5 minutes of it here and there.
Well, that's the kind of party it is. So. One hell of a party.
Yeah.
But I cannot forget about the wrestling. So almost though.
Yeah. So
yeah, my mind was in other places. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's no problem at all. Hey, how you? By the way, how are you feeling and everything right now?
Right this second, I'm actually doing okay. I had to have somebody help me get off the airplane this morning, though.
Oh, to get
you? I got back to LA, but
just from
no, really. In all honesty, I feel okay right now. I mean, I'm beat up, man. I'm beat to hell, and the low back stuff's actually what's bothering me right now. The neck's not even an issue.
Yeah.
That concrete ass ring that I was in last night didn't help matters any.
Yeah, in Florida. How'd the thing go with Kurt Hennig?
Yeah, it went.
Yeah.
It was the promoter was good to me, and I got paid, and
wow.
Here's the thing though. The show went 4.5 hours. Like you talk about with the Ring of Honor shows.
Yeah, they go too long.
4.5-hour show, and everybody was out there, and everybody was putting their heart into it, But it was like almost like guys putting on a show to entertain themselves.
Was Bobby Heenan there?
As opposed to, because there was a lot of stuff on the show. And everybody, matter of fact, when I got the ring, Bobby Heenan announced our match. He did the ring announcing. And I actually got on the mic and said, since everybody else, including the referees, had a turn at the microphone, I might as well get on here too. So, it was different. There was about 1,000 people there, though. They did a good job promoting.
That's good. Sean, hold on just a second because we'll start talking about the stuff with NWA TNA right after this break. I just want to mention real quick that if you did not read the Wrestling Observer several weeks ago, and it's breaking on Reuters, actually right at this minute, Lennox Lewis is planning a 3-fight sequence starting March. He's going to fight Vitaly Klitschko on March the 8th. Then he's going to fight Mike Tyson, and then he's going to face Vladimir Klitschko in his third fight. And I just remember writing that a long time ago. But anyway, it's breaking news. They just handed it to me. So I guess if you want to follow boxing, I think we're kind of ahead of the curve on that one, too. Anyway, we'll be back with more with Sean Waltman right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and our guest right now is Sean Waltman at Anna Nicole Smith's party, taped for ETV and her television show that anyway, we can talk about that at some other point. Sean, how are you?
Like I said before, right this moment, I'm doing fantastic.
You know, since the last time we talked to you on the air, you have gotten engaged, and you are no longer with NWA TNA. And it's been both have been kind of major topics in wrestling. I mean, I'll tell you, because you and I talked about this before, right? Basically, right after you got engaged. You know, you had to read stuff about your engagement on the internet. You know, we all take shots on the internet, but that was, you know, there was stuff said that was way too ridiculous.
We definitely provided some people with some good material. You know, we take it pretty much. We take it pretty good. Well, we'll read some of it and laugh our ass off. She's looking at me right now and blowing me a kiss. Boy, you wouldn't believe what she's wearing right now. I love you too, Johnny. Wow, unbelievable.
Really?
Anyhow,
well, when is this?
You know the stuff like wonder what their kids would look like, and then you show the morphed pictures of her and I, you know, and I mean all that crap. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, we knew ahead of time that we were gonna have to put up with that crap. So. I just hope you know that, like, how much I think of you guys. Like, I mean, I'm missing a hell of a party here talking to you.
Well,
but at least I can watch it while I'm talking to you guys. No, but really, yeah, that's what you have to. That's part of the game. You know, I have to deal with that, and my life is pretty crazy. I mean, my divorce lawyer, when I got through telling him the whole story. And divorce lawyers have heard everything. This guy looked like he just got through a damn wind tunnel.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He was speechless.
Wow.
I mean, the last 10 years of my life are definitely something for the history books.
When do you plan on writing a book?
Oh, God. When everybody else has long since done writing theirs. I mean, how many books are coming out nowadays?
Yeah, too many.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm gonna keep as much as I can, you know, in my head, and you know, a lot of it's, you know, documented by everybody else, thank God, because I'd forget half of it. But
now,
down the road, it's gonna make for interesting reading.
Well, you left NWA TNA this week, and it was a pretty big deal, and. And they're trying to turn it into an angle, and it's not an angle, but they think it's an angle, or I don't know what's going on exactly there. But you know, why don't you just tell everyone basically what happened, why you left, you know, and how it was all handled.
Okay, and I want to try to tell you this, and knowing that you have like commercial obligations you have to fill, so I'm going to try to make it concise. I came to TNA. From WWF, okay? I knew about TNA before it was made public. I believed in it. I still do. I pray that it succeeds. Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett, I think a lot of both of them. But they knew from the get-go that Vince Russo, when it comes to me, he's not going to have anything to do with anything I'm involved in, and that's okay. I mean, I don't know like what else I should say that people don't already know, other than I feel like I was misled, and I told Jerry Jarrett that stuff was happening behind his back, and nobody else had the balls to do it, you know. So I did it, and people can say what they want about me, and most of it's true. And the one thing is, though, is that I'm honest and I'm straightforward, and I told them how it was, and I thought it helped preempt you know, a major catastrophe as far as that company went, and I was led to believe that everything was fine, and turns out, boy, was I ever a fool, you know? So, I mean, I really... what
do you see when you look at this and you fought, and just so for the people who don't know, I mean, you fought real hard to make sure that Jerry Jarrett got power and not Vince Russo, and then Vince Russo said, I mean, what do you think? And I know you've talked to everyone about this. What is your feeling on what? Do they see something in Vince Russo that you and I don't see? I mean, I guess they do because I still don't see it.
I guess they do, and you want to know why that is? It's because they have a different vision of wrestling than I do, apparently. And I just assumed that, Jeff and Jerry being, the lineage they have in wrestling, especially Jeff being second generation, they would understand my feelings as far as his contempt for the actual wrestling part of the business. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yeah. So Vince Russo was good to Jeff Jarrett, So he pushed him. He said, 5 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry, honey. But you know what? Vince Russo doesn't have the market cornered on being a Jeff Jarrett fan. He's not the only one that thinks Jeff's good. Hell, I think he's great. So yeah, if I was that good to everybody that was an admirer of mine, Jesus, I mean, for crying out loud, I wouldn't have time to take care of myself.
Yeah. So
to answer your question, I have no freaking idea, other than he throws 1,000 ideas out and 50 of them are decent.
Now, what was your thoughts as far as like the last couple of weeks? Because I mean, we both could watch the TV and we both could see those funny fingerprints on the TV at certain points.
Yes. Well, my thoughts on it are I think he's had his hand on things for ever since the whole power play thing went down.
Yeah.
So the 5-way table elimination match for the X Division #1 contender thing, that's got Vince Russo written all over it, all the lesbian stuff, all the naked shower scene stuff, but then I was told, well, that's not his idea at all, that was Jerry's. So I don't really know what to believe, Dave. You guys, I don't know where the hell reality starts and fiction, starts. I don't know where that line is anymore. But I know that my stance is not a work. It's a shoot. It's the real deal.
What is your next, basically what's your next thing?
You know what? I'm going to move on. Joni and I are just going to concentrate on Japan. I mean, I think, no matter what people think about her, I think she's really shut a lot of people up. She has done well, a lot better than anybody ever thought she would do. She took a hell of an ass whipping from Chono, and she's represented New Japan in the United States better than any other person New Japan's ever had as far as the Gaijin performer.
Sure.
I mean,
as far as getting publicity,
more awareness than anybody.
Yeah. As far as getting publicity more than anyone they've ever had. That's true.
Yeah, and she feels very, very loyal to them and Inoki.
And you guys have been training a lot in LA, right?
Yes.
How is that dojo?
What's that?
How is the dojo down there?
The dojo is awesome. It's a hell of a facility. They got a lot of great guys that go and train there. American Dragon. He's one of my favorites as far as like wrestling, actual like mat wrestling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he trains out of there, and he was actually living there.
Oh, really?
But yeah, and then they put him in an apartment once they found out he was sleeping on the damn floor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy's got he's got a lot of drive.
Yeah.
So I think New Japan is going to show us something here in the United States pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I mean, I can't really say anything other than that because I don't really have a, well, the Japanese people are anyhow how they do business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a knock. That's the way they are. So I mean, I've heard from like the press and different reporters that we were going to do this over there and that they wanted us to do that. And, like, I'm the last person to know.
Sean, we want to let you get back to the party right now.
Cool.
So, but I just wanted to get you on, and so you could basically tell everyone, what really happened, and just catch everyone up on everything.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it's a real crying shame. That's all I have to say. It's a real shame because I thought the TNA thing should be exactly what everybody thought it was going to be at first, and that's not what's going on now. And it's a real shame because I love wrestling. I mean, all seriousness.
Yeah.
I really love it. So, thanks, you guys.
Okay, have a good party.
I'm sorry it's kind of hard to hear me here.
No, everything's cool. And we'll be talking to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, you're very welcome, Sean. Okay, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to be back with Larry Matysik in just a couple of minutes as well. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. And if you are looking for information on either of those publications, you can go to WrestlingObserver.com, and there's information on the homepage. You can on Wrestling Observer newsletter and Figure 4 Weekly, as well as in the first updates. We've got info on this week's issue of the Observer, and it's actually I think there's more news in this week's issue of the Observer than almost any issue that I've done, just because we got this new printer format that allows me to get more space in, and I didn't write. Actually, I did write 2 obits this week, and got more this week and last week, and I almost can't even keep up with them sometimes. And anyway, we got Larry Matysik, who was a longtime television and wrestling announcer in St. Louis and Sam Muchnick's right-hand man, and who has been following wrestling longer than either of us have been alive.
Oh, Dave, Brian, you're hurting me.
And that's true, though. and one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever come in contact when it comes to wrestling was with Vince McMahon and WWE when they changed wrestling forever, and now they're changing it forever again, and maybe not in as good a way. And I got to ask you, you know Vince better than I do, although I haven't talked to him lately. Then again, neither have I. But what happened to him?
Well, ego and pride goeth before the fall. Didn't somebody say that somewhere along the line?
Probably, but I don't.
Something like that. Well, he is successful. I mean, there's no question. He's been the most successful promoter in the history of professional wrestling. I mean, he has a monopoly to all intents and purposes. Sorry to the folks with Jerry Jarrett and everybody down there, but basically he has a monopoly. And I'm not altogether sure that really is good for the business when you're never pushed. I mean, the push has to come internally, and pretty soon you're competing against yourself, and maybe that leads to some of the stuff where you have so-called script writers, which I guess used to be called bookers, writing for themselves and writing to make each other laugh as opposed to trying to stir up interest and trying to draw crowds. It's hard to compete against yourself, and I think it's hard to keep up the competitive fires when you're it.
Okay, but let me say this. When you were in St. Louis, for years and years and years, there were 30 other wrestling offices, but in St. Louis, you were competing with yourself. You weren't competing with Bob Geigel, and you weren't competing with Vince McMahon Sr. You were just trying to present a good product, and you had your rules. And for those who don't get the newsletter, one of the reasons I wanted Larry on, he wrote a letter in the Observer a couple months ago, and I mean it was awesome in its simplicity and as far as wrestling booking, you read it and it's like, then there were a lot of people in wrestling who called me up afterwards and just was like, that letter was just awesome. And yet, if you look at those things that you were talking about, and Vince McMahon knows booking, and Vince McMahon's been around it, and he saw his father, and he had his own successful formula. And, but what they do now is got nothing to do with what they did when they were successful at all. I mean, now it's totally ego-driven. And I mean, just as an example, and I'll just throw this one at you. On Thursday SmackDown, they announced that they did an angle where Brock Lesnar is suspended. Okay, now he's working all the house shows.
That makes sense.
But he's probably not going to work the pay-per-view because it's like you're suspended from TV but not from house shows, and it's like that lack of follow-up. To me, I mean, Brian wasn't even surprised, and deep down neither was I. But it's like that's why no angle that they do means anything. I mean, you can throw somebody, off of a bridge, and everyone's going to laugh, ha, 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 because it doesn't mean anything. And somewhere in there, he got too smart for his own good.
Well, and that's exactly right. And you're correct in what you said about St. Louis, and that we did not have competition within the town, but there were 30 other promotions out there around the country. And we were not shy about borrowing ideas that did seem to work, and there was a certain amount of pressure from different promotions, and certainly from within partners in the St. Louis Wrestling Club, of which Sam Muchnick owned 51%, not 100%, 51%, and I was told this by other partners, including Harley Race at one time. Harley said, "Oh, come on, I know you want to open it up. You don't want to be like the old man. You want to open it up. You want to make it like we're doing in Kansas City," and there was that pressure. Of course, here I was in St. Louis, and we were running house shows every 3 weeks at Kiel Auditorium of the Arena and drawing anywhere from 8,000 people to 18,000 people, and here they were in Kansas City running every single Thursday night and drawing 800 people, and I'm thinking, wow, that doesn't make sense. But there was a certain amount of pressure, and I think there was a certain amount of ideas that were generated within the business, some of which fit into the type of booking, the more sports-oriented booking that we had in St. Louis. The letter that I wrote, because there have been so many comments over the years about, well, the wrestling booking in St. Louis during its heyday was simple. Well, yeah, it was simple to that extent that A led to B, which led to C, and you had a climax and you had a finish. But simple didn't mean it was easy, because if it was easy, other people would have done it too successfully, and they didn't. One of the things I mentioned there was, and I still almost see this mentality in there somehow, even in Vince's booking today with WWE, and certainly Vince was exposed to this. I mean, I recognize Vince McMahon and I are the same age virtually within a year or so of each other. So we grew up at the same time, and obviously from his father and from my mentor, Sam Muchnick, we had many of the same influences. It just changed somewhere in there, but certainly the thing that I see now is when you get to the blow-off of a feud, of a battle, there's still that mentality, well, how do we get out of this without hurting anybody? St. Louis was, don't worry about it. Have a finish. Satisfy the audience. The guy who loses, A, if it's a good enough match, nobody's going to take him down for it. And B, if you give him something back later, if Jack Briscoe loses to Dory Funk Jr., but Jack Briscoe comes back and gets a big win 2 months later over Gene Kiniski, then Jack Briscoe's back in the fray. So there has to be a lot of thinking. Even though it looks simple on the surface, you're really planning. If you're not planning 3-4 months ahead, and with all due respect,
but you just said planning 3-4 months ahead. They don't plan a week ahead.
They plan, and exactly, because they are driven by ratings. And
but I don't find that as an excuse, because you have a good if you have a soap opera or something like just anything, I mean. Vince McMahon.
Smaller parts of the story that you can change every week for ratings, but you should have at least something.
You should have a core.
They should have all the main events booked through WrestleMania and who's going to go over in every key match to get to WrestleMania. It should be done now.
Vince, at one time when Vince and I were talking, and we're going back now to 83 or so, and when the business was in the process of changing, and I was running independently after Sam Muchnick had retired, and before I was with the WWF, and before Vince had made his move into St. Louis, we were finding out that the NWA at that time didn't mean anything anymore. That here was Sam Muchnick's protege out there running and getting talent from NWA members to run against basically an NWA member. Okay, and Vince was finding all this stuff out and finding how soft and weak the business was. Vince said to me at that time, we are television producers. He says, I'm a television producer, meaning himself. Vince, I'm a television producer. And certainly that has taken hold more than ever today. And who might argue? I mean, he's made billions of dollars. But nonetheless, he looked at it as a television program. We looked at it as a wrestling promotion who happened to be doing television. And I guess that's part of it. They get so scared from one quarter hour being down. Yet, what's one of the hottest shows on television? I just watched it an hour or two ago, The Sopranos. You mean to tell me that when David Chase started writing The Sopranos for the year 2002, he didn't know where in episode 13 he was going when he was writing episode 2? Of course he did. And that's why in the end, ultimately, it will be satisfying. And in the end, maybe why the WWE will not necessarily be satisfying with some finishes. I mean, is Shawn Michaels going to give up the title to Triple H again? What was the whole purpose of that?
Yes. But I think where my frustration lies on this one is that Vince McMahon. I mean, I WrestleMania 4. Okay, when WrestleMania 4 was over, anyone with half a brain knew Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage was the main event at WrestleMania 5, and that was a year later. And there have been other years like that, and certainly every WrestleMania up until the last couple of years certainly 3 to 4 months ahead of time, we knew what the main event was, had a pretty darn good idea of where it was going, and they built it up great. They built it up for months and months and months, and now, they don't know what the main event is. They don't know. I mean, yet they're figuring out this week what the main event's going to be on a pay-per-view Armageddon on December the 15th, and they haven't even shot, the real angle to build up the main events. They're doing that this week, 2 weeks away from the show.
It's not lack of planning. It's just, I guess, trying to be cute, trying to swerve people, to swerve those of us within the business. I mean, wow, okay, they fooled me, they fooled Brian. Whoopee. Did that sell any more tickets? Sometimes I think sometimes they just totally lose sight of the fact, and maybe it's because they have been so successful, dating back to a lot of years when they could trade on things that have been built up over the years, that they don't feel the need to do the basic thing of professional wrestling. Put butts in seats. And in this case, put viewers before pay-per-view. I mean, you can name it anything you want. It's all the same. You have to sell tickets or sell buys. And that's why you're there. If you're going to be worried about being cute and swerving people, somehow you're going to lose sight of the fact why you're there. You're trying to make money, and you only make money if you have more audience.
Okay, we're going to go ahead to a break right now. We're going to start taking phone calls right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Our special guest right now, Larry Matysik from St. Louis wrestling fame, longtime television announcer, and he'll help with the booking, Sam Muchnick's assistant. And I ask you, going back to the television announcing, you didn't watch SmackDown. Well, I'm pretty sure
we don't have SmackDown in St. Louis. It's not picked up.
Oh my God! Can you imagine, Brian?
Yeah, I can imagine, actually.
Oh, my God.
UPN was picked up by a Christian station about a year and a half ago, and that lasted about 2 months, and then they didn't want it anymore, so SmackDown disappeared, and nobody picks it up in the market.
Oh, my God.
Sting and DiBiase now, or not even that?
I'm sorry?
Sting and DiBiase, do you get them?
No. No, we get nothing out of UPN.
My God. Could you imagine if you lived in that city? If you lived in the city, you couldn't watch wrestling anymore.
All you have is Raw in this marketplace right now.
Oh, that hurts.
And this is the 18th largest TV market in the country.
Now, I know that you watch Raw from time to time.
Oh, yes. I mean, hey, wrestling, and Ric Flair certainly proved this, and it's funny, before Rick went back with Vince McMahon this summer, Rick and I had done a radio show in St. Louis for a gentleman that does a radio show on a local station. And we talked off the air about it, and Rick says to me, he says, you know me, he says, I gotta go back. Well, you know what the sad part is? I'm as bad as he is, and if the chance was there, I'd go back too. So I turn it on, and I look, and I get myself aggravated. Oh, what are they doing? Jeez, that's so stupid, my God. So I turn on the football game for a while, and hope when I turn it back, maybe something smarter is happening where they haven't insulted my intelligence for about the 28th time.
That's my Monday night. Mm-hmm. Most of the time. I mean, it's been a long time since there's been a good Raw. I mean, and the funny thing is, what you're missing is SmackDown. Except for this last Thursday, SmackDown has been awesome. I mean, I'd say for about 3 straight months.
Based on what I've been reading in the Observer, and the various information, yeah, it looks like they have harder workers. And in workers, actually, the emphasis is more placed on, as opposed to out of the ring, cutesy, funny, nice things where Eric Bischoff performing, which has got to be one of the stalest acts in wrestling right now too.
But how come they don't get it? And I mean, and it's like okay, here we're talking about like we're out for ratings. Hey, there's no misreading these ratings.
No, there's not. Well, there is no UPN outlet in St. Louis, and for whatever reason, I want to say that Channel 11, which was KPLR TV, which was the longtime wrestling station, did briefly pick up some UPN programming, but they're actually a Warner station. And then when Warner kind of cracked down on their affiliates picking up outside shows, that killed that idea. And there's no local station picking it up.
Okay, we got a bunch of phone calls. We'll start getting them now. We're going to start with Alan in Deerfield Beach. Alan, what's going on? Doing good.
Great. I wanted to know about Shane Douglas's comments about Shawn Michaels' back injury being embellished. What do you make of that? Do you agree?
No. I think Shawn Michaels' back injury is exactly what everyone says it is. He had surgery. And I know that his doctor told him not to wrestle, so he's, and he didn't wrestle for 4 years, and now he's wrestling. And
you think Shane, because he doesn't like him, is just taking shots at him?
I think Shane, because he knows him, is finding it hard to believe anything he says.
Yeah.
But that's how I see it, because let's face it, Shawn Michaels' track record in wrestling in certain ways. When it comes to injuries, is not the best in the world.
Right.
But you know, the back end, there's no question that back end.
And think about the time when he just handed the belt over to Shane, and Shane was probably thinking, you could have done a match tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
You're here pretending you're hurt.
Yeah, and you know, Bret Hart the same way. And I mean, how many others? You know, and they gave this guy the belt again.
Right.
You know, but I mean, it's because, you know, Hunter's his best friend, and it's, you know, whatever. Now, Larry, you know, you told me something earlier today. We were talking about Shawn Michaels, and you brought it up. And you were talking about this run, and you were pretty down on it.
Yeah, I vote for the
How many others? You know, and they gave this guy the belt again.
Right.
You know, but I mean, it's because, you know, Hunter's his best friend, and it's, you know, whatever. Now, Larry, you know, you told me something earlier today. We were talking about Shawn Michaels, and you brought it up. And you were talking about this run, and you were pretty down on it.
Yeah, I vote for the Hall of Fame, the Observer, and I haven't voted for Shawn Michaels. Granted, I was great friends with Bruiser Brody, and I know he pulled his stuff too, but this is a little bit different what Michaels done. I've always kind of been on the fence because I think he's been a terrific performer. I don't think he really drew a whole lot of money, but the business had changed then, so he didn't have the opportunity to headline in 20 different territories. But when he's come back, it's almost, as I look at it, it's made me less likely to vote for him, because it's kind of made me see the difference, and I thought about, since you and I talked, Dave, why I'm seeing this difference between, say, Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. And I guess what it is that Flair, until he was just buried by the betrayal they've had him do in WWE, Ric Flair, when he came back in any one of his many comebacks, still had a certain aura or charisma about him. You knew, man, he's special. I just don't see that in Shawn. And truthfully, I just don't feel any fire for it, where many times on Rick, I'd see, you know, it looked like they buried Rick. How many things did he do with WCW where they should have just buried him and thrown him in the trash, and then he was back on TV 2 months later and then drawing their best ratings and drawing houses on the road for him. It just, to me, kind of brought up the difference between the two, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm a little hard on Hall of Fame. I expect a little bit more, and then again, we talked about this, did you vote for Tony Perez in the Baseball Hall of Fame or would you not? I wouldn't vote for Tony Perez. I mean, I want to see Pete Rose, or Joe Morgan. So where do I put Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair there? Well, Ric Flair is Pete Rose or Joe Morgan, and Shawn Michaels maybe Tony Perez or a little less. And I'm just kind of turned off. I don't think, I don't see any flair in it. I don't see any fire in it, and giving him the belt and then taking it right back. So what? And he hasn't given it back yet anyway, even if the guy is a friend of his.
Well,
I'm like the biggest Shawn Michaels fan in the world, but I thought that same thing since they gave him the belt, because, I thought after the SummerSlam match, I thought, okay, this should get him in next year.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal match, the first one back, no doubt.
Yeah, but then when he kept working and he got the belt, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah, disappointment.
He seems, you know what? He didn't adapt with the times, and Flair and Hulk Hogan, and I gotta say for Hogan too, they're timeless. Hulk Hogan, when he's 60 years old and he makes his comeback, they're gonna go crazy for him again.
Yeah.
We're going to cringe, but we all know we all know they will. Those guys, it's like Antonio Inoki, and then he is 60 years old, and they still do. Shawn Michaels is not that. Now I'm not saying that I think he's a Hall of Fame guy, but he is not. He's not a first ballot Hall of Fame guy, if that's what you mean.
And it is funny too. Years ago, Bruiser Brody and I rode together many a long trip. When I was technically with Vince McMahon, I was also running independent shows all over Illinois and Missouri, and I usually used Brody to headline. So we drove many a 3 and 4 hour drive across, little towns all over Illinois and Missouri. And Brody often talked about, hey, I know I can't be Bruiser Brody if I stay in this business forever. I'm going to have to reinvent myself in some way because the business is going to change. And here he was 15 years ago saying those things, and somehow the Hogans, the Flairs, the Brodys had he lived, the Fezes, the Buddy Rogers, somehow they find a way to make themselves fit and make themselves meaningful. I just don't know if Shawn did or not.
Well, he didn't. Look at just his look. His look is outdated, and I think that hurts a lot. And I think that people, also Brian, one of the other thing, I think that people really got behind, to an extent, because I don't think it ever was a big draw, but I think people were into, Shawn Michaels coming back. But when they gave him the belt, and the same thing happened with Hogan.
Well, that's true too. Maybe you expect too much. You want to keep.
No. When you give him the belt, people all of a sudden go, wait a minute, this is a fraud. Because Hogan was doing great until the day they gave him the belt, and when they gave him the belt, you could just see everyone going like, wait a minute. We wanted him to have the belt, but now he's got the belt.
Yeah.
He's 49 years old.
like the Elimination Chamber without the belt on the line, and Sean won and got his big pop and didn't get the belt.
It's kind of funny because, St. Louis for years, Sam Mushnick certainly made a living out of protecting the legends. Gene Kiniski come back every 3 years, and he'd build the title match, and it would draw, but he never did win it.
Yeah.
So maybe you just hit on something. Okay, you're a superstar. We're going to treat you with respect. We're going to take you right to the top. But in the end, we really know that belt belongs with Triple H or, Ric Flair or whomever.
What about Triple H in the Hall of Fame?
Interesting. Have to think on that one. I guess I keep looking for a little bit more longevity. Again, that's not.
Well, it's longevity because he did have that run where
he did.
He was a draw, and he was a lot more of a draw than Shawn Michaels, and he was a great performer until he got the leg injury.
Yeah, and he's got that run right now too.
Yeah, he's got the run right down the toilet.
I lean a little bit towards him at this point, but I guess I'd say ask me that question in 2 years.
Alan, anything else before we get...
I had a question for Larry. I guess maybe he would know, but Dale Wolf was on his website talking about, I don't know if you know Dusty Wolf, talking about Ric Flair and Bruiser Brody and a possible shoot years ago.
Dusty Rhodes.
No, Dusty Wolf. No. I remember St. Louis. Larry, you'll remember this.
Dale Wolf, yeah.
Okay, I remember this because I saw it on Japanese TV. It was Ric Flair against Bruiser Brody, or maybe, and Jerry Blackwell was involved. And Brody just stood there, remember? You know the story.
Something about
That was after the split.
It was after the split, and Brody had gone back to them. And it was when you were with the WWF, and they were using Flair and Brody as their big card against you.
Yeah, and if I remember, Brody basically didn't want to do anything that would hurt him in Japan because at that...
There were Japanese cameras there, and he just stiffened up, and those guys were doing everything to him, and he just stood there. I remember watching that on Japanese TV.
Yeah, he would not sell.
And Flair immediately, what's so great about Flair is, the idea was Flair and Blackwell were supposed to do a beatdown on Brody, okay?
Mm-hmm. And that's right, I do remember that now.
That was the angle. They were going to do a beatdown on Brody, and Brody's, because of the Japanese cameras, was not going to sell for it. And immediately, Ric Flair, when he realized that he wasn't, Ric Flair totally changed what he was going to do and made it work. It was an amazing... Like, he didn't pout, he didn't do nothing, he didn't complain. Ric Flair just goes, okay, he's not going to sell, I'm going to sell. And he sold.
Why? Because it's your business.
We're talking about a title match, though. There's two different things, I think. We're talking
No, Ric Flair and Bruiser Brody never had a shoot in the title match. That's what, if anyone's talking about anything, that's what they were talking about. Ric Flair and Bruiser Brody always got along.
Really? Bill Wolf said the opposite. That's why I'm asking you.
No, they never had a shoot in the title
match. No, they never had a shoot. I can guarantee you that they actually had a lot of respect for each other. And, in fact, they had done a 1-hour draw.
Yeah.
At one time here, our Japanese TV, when Baba was in control and it was still St. Louis Wrestling Club. And I remember, it was just an incredible 1 hour. It just went totally for an hour. I remember Brody and Flair both telling me, 2 days afterwards, man, my body still hurts. I can't walk. Wow. Because they were on Japanese TV. They knew how much it meant. They also knew it was a little bit stiffer style. Of course, St. Louis was kind of stiff at that time, too. So they got along great.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to go to Dan in Paramus, New Jersey. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing good.
I have a question about the Inoki Bambaya on December 31st.
Yes.
I've been hearing that Sap versus Takayama is set, but yet I've heard that Takayama is...
It is not. It is absolutely not set.
That's what I've been hearing.
They wanted to make the match, but Takayama doesn't want to do the match. And I don't blame him. If I was Takayama, I sure wouldn't want to do that match.
Yeah, all right. And also a question for Larry and also you, Dave, Brian, too. Do you ever think wrestling is going to have any true respect in the USA within, say, the mainstream media, sort of like it has in Japan?
Never.
Well, that's a quick answer.
Well, and I'll say why. It's kind of ironic, and I go back to Vince again in the mid-'80s when I was involved with him a lot, seeing a lot of him. He always would bring up about how he wanted people to know it was a work, which he has done, and he wanted people to respect them for what they could do as an art. Well, they do all that now, and how much respect do we have in the mainstream media today? There's nothing left to do.
I think that there was a period when it was really hot where they had a chance, but I think that the tastelessness aspect of it kind of ruined it for the guys. Because I think there was a real respect for Rock and Steve Austin and for a little bit there.
The funny thing is, I think the old St. Louis style, when that spot was there, would have gotten over it with the respect. St. Louis, the people knew in the 70s, the 60s, yeah, it was kind of a work, but there was an awful lot of respect for the athletes.
Larry, we got to go. We got to go head to a break right now. Anything else, Dan? Real quick.
No, thanks.
Okay, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome to the final segment of the show. We only got a couple of minutes left. I want to thank Sean Waltman, of course, for being here earlier, and Larry Matysik. And Larry, we got to get you on for a longer period of time. This was not enough time. I think we didn't even get to scratch the surface.
Anytime, David. It's always fun to be on, and whether it's new or old, I'm sure I'll say something that'll get myself in trouble.
Okay, we're going to go to one last caller, James in Seattle. James, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Glad to be on. I had one quick question first. Did Giant Baba have some kind of medical condition that explained his kind of odd body type and his height?
I believe so, yeah. I think he had a form of acromegaly. I mean, obviously it was a little bit different in a sense than Andre, who was much bigger. But, I mean, Baba also had the huge feet and huge hands.
Yeah. Okay, and my other comment was, since you guys were talking about Shawn Michaels, I've always thought of Shawn as kind of like an underdog guy. And so when he gets the title, and especially the first time, and again now, it's sort of like, okay. You know, like I liked him when he's sort of the goofy heel, like that one time where he's fighting with Jannetty in like one of the Rumbles, and they just run in and punch each other in the face for like 20 seconds. But when he finally gets to the main event, it's like, well, that's the payoff. Now what? Like
well, I mean, some people are great challengers and they're not as good champions.
Yeah, I always thought that was him. And I guess the one other thing I had was the cat. I guess you guys didn't really like the announcing on SmackDown.
I did not. No.
Yeah, and I just thought maybe he just seemed kind of nervous to me. Like it's
but I thought it was sad that you put somebody on there that did not know the storylines.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you got all these guys, like the wrestlers there, and you've got the other announcers there, and it's like you're going to bring in this character because you think he's funny, but he doesn't know what's going on, and it's clear he didn't know what's going on, and plus he wasn't that good.
Yeah, I agree. He just seemed he was just nervous. But I think he did. The Wilson segment was terrible, but I thought he was decent in that. It seemed like he was the old cat again. So maybe they could bring him in as kind of a manager, kind of like Slick or something.
Maybe.
And he would work better that way.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, thanks a bunch, James. And thanks, everybody, for calling. We're going to be back next Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we'll see you next Sunday. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Larry. You listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.